Hi, welcome back to Find Your Authentic Energy. I'm your host, Wendy McCauley Brand. So excited that you are here for episode 3. Thanks for coming back. Today we're going to talk about strategy and authority. So if you didn't catch the last episode on types, you may want to go catch it. You can always come back to it. I don't think you have to completely understand it in order to participate in this episode or to listen to this episode. I will say you may want to know what your type is. And if you don't already know, you can go to my website, wendymccauleybrand.com. And that's Macaulay, MCCAULEY, wendymccauleybrand.com. And you can get your free human design chart there. Once you have that, it will tell you things like what your type is, what your profile is, what your strategy and authority are, what your not self theme is, things like that. Just some basic general information. It shows you your body graph, which shows the 9 energy centers in your body, and some will be colored in, some will be empty. We'll talk a little bit about centers on another episode. But really, what we're talking about is your energy, how your energy works in your body, how you were born, how you were created, how you were made to live your life, how your energy was designed to impact others, how it was designed to create a life, a fulfilling life for yourself. And the thing about your human design too is that it tells you, if you're feeling this way, then you know that you're not living in your authentic energy. And if you're feeling this way, then you are aligned and living your authentic energy. So go get that free chart. And then you can follow along on these episodes to learn more detail about your chart once you have it. Also, depending on when you're listening to this episode, we're in August of 2026, and I'm offering a free, since this is my first time doing this, I've been running an experiment of my own on decision making, and I'm opening up a free 4-week, what am I calling it? An experiment, just your human design experiment to test out for yourself. Like, don't take my word for it that this human design stuff is that it works or that it gives you guidance. Like, you need to try it out for yourself. And so I'm going to share the experiment that I have been doing to kind of better trust my own decision making. And that means making decisions from my inner authority, my body, listening to my body more, and my mind less. I know that sounds a little counterintuitive, but what we're going to talk about today, type, your strategy and authority, those two things really help you ensure that you're living your authentic energy. And so, I guess what I was going to tell you is that I'm starting on Monday. I think this episode, it's Sunday right now, but I'll probably release it tonight or tomorrow. So on Monday, the program officially starts, but we won't have our first call until Wednesday, August 19th. And so you can check out more about that. I'll put the link in the show notes if you're interested in that program. I'll be doing it again. It's just not going to always be free. This first one is free because it's a test for me as much as it is for you. Just as I help you run an experiment like I did myself. So let's get in. Let's talk about strategy and authority and really what these are. And so, as I mentioned last week, we talked about the types. And so, as a refresher, I won't go into the detail, but we have manifestors, generators, manifesting generators, projectors, and reflectors. And the way that those types are determined in human design really has a lot to do with how your energy flows and which energy centers are defined versus undefined. there are motor centers in your body graph that show if they're defined, you have more energy. If they're undefined, you're pulling energy from others in those areas, in those specific energy centers. Um, and so, based on your type, that kind of explains how you were meant to move, how your energy is designed to move in this world. Now, your strategy and authority is going to be different based on type, but based on some other things. And so I'll just start by telling you about strategy first, and then we'll talk a little bit about authority. And so strategy really accesses the unique, if you're using your strategy, if you're following your strategy, then it helps you to access the unique energy designed to flow through your body graph, through your body. When I say body graph, I'm referring to, if you get your chart, you'll see your body graph. It's the 9 centers and the channels that connect those centers. And so ultimately, your strategy determines your health, your sexuality, your relationships, your life purpose, how those all play out. And the reward for following your strategy is your type's signature, or what I call your authentic energy emotion. And so you may recall that, well, I think we talked about this in the last episode. If you're a manifester, then your signature emotion is peace. So you know you're in alignment when you're feeling peace. If you're a manifesting generator, it's peace and satisfaction. If you're a generator, you know you're aligned if you feel satisfaction. So when you feel a sense of satisfaction, you're likely living your strategy. And we're going to talk what strategy is in a second. So just to follow through on this, if you're a projector, your signature theme or your authentic energy, your emotion tied to your authentic energy is success. So when you feel that sense of success, and then reflector, surprise. So those are those. So if you follow your strategy, it will lead you to your authentic energy or your authentic energetic emotion, which is really just a flag for knowing you're in alignment or you're living your authentic energy. And again, this is all based on human design, which was brought to us in the 80s from Ra Uru. And you can learn more about the science behind it. I did cover some of it in the first episode, but you can Google it, look it up. There's plenty of books. And we'll dig more into the science probably as the podcast evolves. But for now, it's just the basics and getting you up to speed. So strategy really opens the way for you to discover your uniqueness. And isn't that what we're all here to do, is to find our authentic energy, to get comfortable in our own body and in our own decision-making process? Because for decades, if you are anywhere in your life, in this mid part of life, like I am, you have spent decades living by somebody else's rules, and they were constructs that were put in place for good purpose. The company that I worked for, or the family that I was raised in, or the education system where I was educated, whether that was elementary school or middle school or high school, just that whole process of education, conditioning throughout our life. So many systems that have contributed to how we think and live today, the society that we live in now, the social media. But how wonderful, how amazing would it feel to be making decisions on your own without others' input if you don't want it? Learning to trust yourself more, trusting your gut, as they say. But in human design, trusting your strategy and authority, and the your signature theme or your authentic energy emotion, the emotion that you feel when you are truly authentically being yourself. And so, enough waiting. Let's talk about this strategy. So, there are really 4 types of strategies, and they're based on your type. And because there were originally only 4 types in human design, and a 5th one was added, which was combining those of us that have a little bit of manifestor and a little bit of generator, or a manifesting generator. And so that makes 5. So there's really 5, I guess, strategies. And so we'll start with the manifestor. And so if you are a manifestor, your strategy is to inform. And what that means is, when you are ready to make a decision, then you should inform others. And as you know, if you've listened to the previous episodes, or if you know anything about human design, you know that manifestors are here to build and create, and they have from within them the ability to respond to their own, to initiate on their own. And so while other types are meant to wait to respond, a manifestor can create on their own. The only thing they need to do, their strategy, is to make sure that they inform others after they've made a decision, but before they take action. So if you're a manifestor and you are, in a relationship, you're married or you have a partner, or even if you own a business and have business partners or other leaders, you're meant to be manifesting, to be creating, to be initiating, but you have to keep people informed, or that is what creates the friction or the repulsion, or the pushing away. And in order to relieve that friction and to move more freely in your life, it's really important to inform others of what you're doing. So even if you are, like I said, if you should you shouldn't rely on others to make decisions. You have the ability to make decisions and respond to your own inner authority. But just make sure that you're informing others. So that is your strategy, is to inform. And so one thing that you can do, and one of the things that we're going to test in our experiment this coming week, that we kick off this week, is, where are you informing? Where are you not informing? And where has that gotten you in trouble? So something to just think about yourself. That's the manifestor. The generator is a little bit different, because the generator is really, here to, they've got that sacral energy. So they are here to create, but they have to wait for something to respond to. And so their strategy is to respond. They don't have from within them something to be initiating. Only manifestors should be initiating. Generators are responding. And so if you're a generator and you find yourself always initiating, whether that's in relationships, whether that's in business, then something to think about is, how could you stop and pay more attention to what it is you're responding to? Because we shouldn't be responding to thoughts or ideas that come into our own mind. So here's a little more in-depth information that may help. Generators find their life through their work, through how they respond to using their daily supply of energy. The right work actually transforms their life and slows the degenerative process of their bodies. So generators are here to do the work, and you're designed to respond with your sacral center, either through sounds as a vibration that rises to the throat from the midsection, or as actual movement toward engaging in the activity. And responses are based on the availability of their sacral energy to do what they have been asked. So the main differentiator of a generator is that sacral energy. It's that life force energy that gives them that consistency to continue to work and to move. And so generators are always in response to something. I hope that helps. When we get a little bit into authority, that may also help some. So that's the generator. And then the manifesting generator is actually here to respond and inform. So they're responding like the generator, and they're informing others because they can have the ability to move so quickly. They have that generator energy, but they also have, they're not here to initiate like the manifestors, but they can respond quickly. And because they respond so quickly, they should be informing. And then the next, so that's the manifester, the generator, the manifesting generator, and then the projectors. And I have a sister who is a projector. They're really here to guide others, and they're more interested in other people's designs than they are in their own. And they normally seek out systems that help them to understand individuals, groups, and the ways that we work together more efficiently and effectively. They're looking at how to help and guide others. And so their aura is an I am open to an invitation field that draws people in and draws them in and out of their lives by provoking invitations from them. Recognition, accompanied by a formal invitation, is the way the other types honor and empower projectors. So projectors need that formal invitation to respond to, whether that is to help someone or into work or into relationship. Because of the way projectors are designed, they are meant to wait for an invitation to respond to. And I know a lot of times people hear that, projectors hear that and think, wait a second. I'm just supposed to sit around and wait for somebody to invite me to do something. But there is some nuance there. And there are different types of projectors. There's a mental projector, an energy projector, and then the classic projector. And so like that energy projector, it's connected to, it has a motor. And so it has a little more energy than some of the other projectors, but it is meant to still wait to respond to invitation. And then finally, we have the reflector. And when we talked about the reflector last time, I think I mentioned that what makes them a reflector, and it is such a unique type. I think it's 9% of the population. I could be wrong. It's either 9% or 1%. Reflectors and manifestors are the most unique, and I'm not remembering which one off the top of my head. But reflectors have all open centers. So all of their energy centers are undefined and open. And that means that their strategy is to wait a lunar cycle because they are so influenced by other people's energy. They need to wait an entire cycle of the moon in order to respond. Because if they don't wait, they may be responding to someone else's energetic influence. And so if they wait and go through that whole lunar cycle, throughout that process, they'll be able to determine what is theirs, what is their response, and then to respond once they know what is theirs, which is by waiting for that lunar cycle. So that is the strategy for those 5 types. So just to recap, the 5 strategies are: the manifester is to inform, the generator is to respond, the manifesting generator is to inform and respond, and then the projector is to wait for an invitation, and the reflector is to wait a lunar cycle. So those are the strategies, and that's probably enough for this episode. And in the next episode, I'll cover the authority, your inner authority, what to be listening to in decision making. And remember, like I said, that your strategy accesses the unique ways that energy is designed to flow through your body graph, and ultimately determines the way our health, relationships, that everything in life, in our life's purpose, plays out. So the strategy is really, really important to be following that strategy depending on your type. And strategy opens up the way for you to discover your uniqueness. If you let your strategy and authority replace that blind faith that we place in outside authorities, we can build that trust in ourselves again. So part 2 of this will be understanding your authority based on what centers you have defined in your body graph. So if you don't already have that chart, go grab that today. WendyMcCauleyBrand.com. And on that homepage, on the top page on the right, you'll see a button that says get your human design chart. Go ahead and get that, download it, and then come back and listen to some of these. And then in the next episode, we'll talk about authority. And if you haven't yet signed up for this 4-week experience, if this was intriguing at all, if this episode was intriguing at all, this is where we're going to be diving deep. So sign up today. I'll put that link in the show notes. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon.